welcome. This is an extra video I'm doing this week. The second extra video I've done this week after the obviously I'm enjoying throwing up the camera and doing a video. This one is John Carpenter's Escape From L.A, the sequel to Escape From New York. Now, this one might seem like an odd subject for a video because Escape From L.A is pretty much viewed like universally as an inferior sequel, a bad sequel, a sequel you shouldn't really defend, which makes it much more fun to defend. I mean, it's easy to defend a film that's got a lot of praise, that may be a bit controversial. That's easy, but defending a film that's a bit more controversial or hated, like controversial bad or hated, that's tougher, that takes more skill, and that's why it's more fun to try and do that. So that's what I'm doing Escape From L.A. today. Okay, I'm going to show you this. I had this from like 1996, before the film was released. This is the actual script, the shooting script before it was cut down. So I got this from Forbidden Planet in Glasgow years and years ago, 1996, and so I actually read it before the film came out, so I knew what was coming. And there's a lot cut out of it. I mean, this is a film that was meant to be a $75 million film, and the budget was cut to $50 million, and a lot was lost. And one of the big problems with the film is that budget cut, because the budget cut really was felt in film. You can feel it in the special effects, right? Because the special effects aren't great. But John Carpenter, I think he realised these was just bad CGI, so he stylised it to try and make it look a bit intentionally cheesy, just to try and play up the idea that this is a cheesy film, because the first film had some dodgy effects as well. No one remembers it, but some of the model work wasn't the greatest thing ever. But it still worked, still had charm. What the sequel tried to do was just follow that rule, cause it lost some of its budget. So it was never going to be slick as the other films that was released around the same time. I mean, this was a time of like Waterworld and Judge Dredd and Mission Impossible and The Rock, which were much more taking place in reality compared to something like Escape From L.A, which was more fantastical. Fantastical films were going to become big in a couple of years with the new Star Wars films, The Matrix. But at this point they weren't as big. And the effects, I don't think the effects were really ready for the ambitions of this film, so you had some early CGI that wasn't up to snuff when they should have just done model shots, but they did CGI. I think that's a real problem. There is some model shots which look pretty good still, but the CGI doesn't look good, but it's stylised. The bigger problem was the film was cut down in budget, which means less extras. It also means certain scenes were cut out before you even got to the filming stage. So there was a scene where he found, they mentioned the snake get caught in New Thailand. He originally saw that, he saw him getting caught. Which would have built up a new idea of America spreading over the world, and of all these little American, like, controlled areas around the world that was this bigger base of Americana, and there was less freedom. So it built up the world of Escape From L.A, expanding it from Escape From New York. That was gone. So, and a lot of stuff that went was basically stuff that would have added atmosphere. Would have added, the plot was kept, but the atmosphere was cut out. So imagine Escape From New York, where a lot of the chock full of nut scenes is cut out, or, you know, a lot of the atmospheric stuff of Snake wandering around New York and all the atmospheric shots. Imagine if a lot of them were cut out. You'll get an idea of what was lost. There was landslide sequences, a sequence where he was chased through buildings early on as he was going from one place to the other, like it would turn out as a CAA building, the agency buildings. So there was going from the mainland to LA, I think in the script read as if it was longer, but in the film it's really quick, as if they're trying to cut through the fact that they don't have many CGI shots. You feel if they were doing more model shots and a bigger budget, that would have been a bit more streamlined and it would be paced better. A lot of time the film feels like something that it's getting paced quick to make around the idea that we don't have that much money to spend, so we're trying our best and we have to try and make this big epic. And I think if they cut some of the those kind of things, sequences out and focused on the atmosphere, and probably been a better film. So a lot of the thing I can't actually blame on the budget cuts, because the script read a lot better than the actual film did. And so I knew what was missing when I saw the film, so it was like, I was looking forward to the film after reading the script. Then you saw the film, it was like, so much of this is not here. So much of what should be here is not here. There was other stuff, like later in the film, there's a bit in the early Colosseum where it's like the gladiator arena, but there's not that many people there. It needed more. If it was done a few years later, you would have had CGI people a lot more, and have given you a bigger suggestion of a world that was about to invade, which wasn't there in this film, and it became a problem. Again, that was a budget thing. So they did what they could, but certain budget cuts led to the film not looking as big as it should have been. And a lot of the expansion of the world was cut out, so you just had the plot. And the plot in Escape from New York and Escape from L.A. is the least interesting part of it. It's all about the atmosphere, all about Snake interacting with people. And that's, you kind of still have some of that Snake interaction, but you don't get as much as you would otherwise, because you would just get interactions that were tied to the plot rather than interactions that were tied to the atmosphere of the world and building the world up and let you know what the rules of the world are. Which what Escape from New York did so well, and this film can't do it because so much is cut out. There's also the problem is that John Carpenter's not really an action director, he's a suspense director. In this film they wanted more action, quick cutting action, and it's not really his forte. I mean, he does it well enough, but there's scenes when there's like drive-by shootings, the cars are not going that fast. And which is part of the joke, is that these macho people are going firing each other, but they can't actually go as fast as they should be. It's kind of funny, but it probably, for threat, it should have probably been faster. So the stuff like that, maybe it was just to do with safety, I don't know, but those things are problems. And some of the action scenes could have been read well, but could have been spliced up a bit more and spiced up and created a bit more of an event feel to them. I think again with those action scenes, it was like you were cutting your budget, so you have to deal with it. Another problem the film had, and this is a problem the film had before it was transferred to Blu-ray, it's not as bad now to Blu-ray, is when it was shot it felt very flat. It felt like it was lit too brightly, so you could see all the limitations of the sets, and you could see all the effects looking a bit, everything was a bit too bright and a bit flat, so you never had layers of imagery. In the Blu-ray, I saw this Blu-ray, it was released from Paramount, and I saw it in a 4K player, which obviously upscales it a bit. And I know they're getting a 4K upscale from Shout Factory. You get a lot more depth to it, you get more imagery to depth, so you've got a lot more greens, you get a lot more oranges, and it feels more like a world and less like a set. And that's a big improvement, that's a big difference to the film, because the film really needed that, because now the sequences like the Beverly Hills sequence with Bruce Campbell, with all the face stuff as he's a surgeon who's dealing with all these surgery addicts, now it looks really atmospheric rather than flat. There's a sequence where Snake first runs into the villain, Trevor Jones, and has to try and attack him. In the cinema, or in the home video, that looked very flat sequence, and it wasn't very exciting. In the Blu-ray, there's more depth to the imagery, and there's more to it. It feels much more like a world rather than people driving through a set, so that helps the action a lot, as it actually does feel much more like a world now, rather than, it's got the transfer which all should have had in the first place, but it would have given it a bit more of oomph. So even sequences that were much maligned, like the sequence where Snake surfs, now it's never going to look like a good special effect, but now it looks appropriate within the world that's been set up, because the world's a bit more, there's a bit more depth to it, and it feels like a bit of silence within this world. And what's good about the film actually is it doesn't take itself that seriously, but it takes itself very seriously at the same time. Like, it takes its theme seriously, but it has a lot of humour. And it's, the big thing you have to try and remember is, even though there's a similarity to the plot, LA is very different from New York. And this film really focuses on that. Like, I think the first time you're into this film, you think you're going to have big buildings just like you had in Escape from New York. You don't. You have a lot of flat buildings. It's much more like all these homes that were built after because it was post earthquake LA. A lot of buildings have collapsed. They're all shanty towns basically, so everything's flat. And there's all these old buildings they now use that were once looked gorgeous and now are lit up and look very gaudy, which feels very different from New York. It's much brighter. And when you first see it, you expect everything to look like Escape from New York. You expect the villains to be like the Escape from New York villains, and they're not. They're these idiots, and some of them are okay, but some of them are idiots. You've got a lot of people wandering around, just stuck there, and they don't know what to do. You've got it's a world that's very brutal. A lot of people have been sent there because they're the wrong religion, they're viewed as criminals for something that isn't really a crime. So a lot of people are sent there, and there's a sequence where you see the people who first arrive and they're getting shot at by the people who live there just as target practice because they're so unused to this. It's basically murder. And there's a sequence in the early on where you see people are allowed to commit suicide rather than go to LA. So there's lots of little details that really work, especially with the new transfer because you can actually see depth to the imagery, so it feels more like a world. But the big thing is, because I haven't seen this film for a while, I could just watch the film rather than thinking it has to be like Escape from New York. It doesn't. It's actually, when you see it from a distance, actually it's more appropriate. It's not Escape from New York, it's something else. And certain things jump out more now that you're not expecting the same film as the one. When you first see the film, you wonder why he's wandering around so much. Obviously, it's a travelogue, so you're seeing the world through his eyes. Also, because some of the sequences were cut out, which would have got you from A to B to C a lot simpler. That now half of them are gone, so it seems like he's wandering. He just jumps from place to place, which is a problem. That's to do with, the studio. But it also works better now where he's watching and realising he doesn't know where he's going because he doesn't have a map, he doesn't know anything. He is just trying to take advice and trying to find Cuervo Jones and try and get this thing back that he needs to get back, the MacGuffin of the film. It's not really it's not a well planned mission or anything. So that becomes part of the joke, is like Pliskin just runs into things like a tank and he survives things but he doesn't plan things out, which is much more played up in this film than it was in the first film. And once you realise that, it's much more pleasurable. You just see it's a travelogue of these different scenes, so actors pop up for a scene or two, allowed to show off a little bit, then you die, or they disappear. A few characters like Steve Buscemi's Map stars Eddie, who's like an agent who represents a lot of different people. He's like the guy who goes between the gangs and negotiates things for them. No one likes him, but he's a necessary evil. He wanders in and out of the film, betrays Snake a few times. He betrays everyone just to try and survive, because he's not a physical guy. He wanders through it, but most characters are in it for a few scenes, apart from Steve Buscemi, the villain, and the prison's daughter who started the film story off. Everyone else is just in it for little bits and bobs. And it's quite nice. You get Bruce Campbell in a cameo as a Surgeon General. Valerie Galino shows up as someone who was a Muslim who was thrown out of America, and now she's been a gun runner, and now she's just wandering around LA. You see a lot of people just trying to survive. You see prostitutes trying to survive. Yeah, Pam Grier shows up as a transsexual gang leader. This was like 20 years ago when this wasn't a big thing. When you have a gang leader who had changed sex and who is happy with it and who'd still threaten people. And she's like the person who's also against the villain. So having Snake have a past before she had her operation, and now now they have to join forces to take down Cuervo Jones, and it's quite funny seeing the reactions because he doesn't care. As long as he gets what he wants, he doesn't care. And the whole atmosphere, the funny thing about this film is when it first came out, because it looked so cheap because the budget had been cut and they couldn't do the effects right, and it just wasn't what it should have been, wasn't what the script's ambitions were for it. It was easy to get a pot shot at it. It was like, oh, you ruined it, you destroyed Escape from New York legacy, you destroyed everything by making this film. And now you see it's like, yeah, it's a flawed film, it's compromised as hell. But on its own, it's actually quite enjoyable. It's got some nice things. It's a very flawed film, but it's nice. It's enjoyable to watch Kurt Russell's that character again, wandering through the environments and trying to react to different things. Because LA is like everything, like any crime area on steroids. And the whole point is the third world all going like LA, but it's probably less over the top as LA. But there's a whole third world now that has been exiled from the first world, and the first world's become a theocracy under the Christian rule, and who are intolerant of everybody. I mean, it's just like today. I mean, if you look at the left and right wing today, they're just like the villains in this film, you know. And you pretty much got a right wing rule versus a left wing rebellion. The left wings are violent and the right wingers are smug and pretty judgmental. Nowadays you've got both sides being judgmental and smug. And the film sees both sides as a problem. It's like it puts a problem to Pliskin you don't get in the first film. Is basically this technology. If he takes it back to the president, then America wins, but America's so corrupt that it shouldn't win. But if he leaves it to Trevor Jones to have it, he wins, but he's just as corrupt as the Americans in his own way. He's just as violent. You don't want him in charge of an army that's going to attack America. And so he has to find a way around that, because the idea is it's a very cynical film where both sides are awful. It's a very honest film, really. I mean, it's like neither side of empathy for anyone else. You see in LA all these people are gangs now. They've turned into gangs, and if they go to America, that's going to take over America and take over the world. If America wins, America's judgmentalism is going to take over everybody, and everyone's going to have to force to live under their rule. So he's stuck with a problem, and his solution's really cynical, which is he turns off the power to the entire world. There's these nuclear EMPs will wipe out the power sources of everything, which he sets off and takes everyone back to the Middle Ages, so no one's got power. And so it's a really cynical thing, because you know all hell's going to break loose there, but it's in this world is set up, it's kind of the only real option that he's got. And it's quite nice to see a film that's that political and that cynical about things, and how it attacks both sides. Both sides get it horribly. I mean, nobody is safe in this film. Everybody's going to get a pot shot at them. If you're a lefty or a right winger, you're going to get hit from this film. And actually, the politics have aged a lot better than anything else, because now it looks pretty smart. Because I mean, the president, played by Cliff Roberts in this film, feels very much like George Bush Jr. It really does feel like him. It doesn't feel much like Trump, because Trump's not a religious guy, really. But some of the power-hungry stuff to the right-wing America is definitely still there, obviously. And a lot of the Trevor Jones left-wing nuts that are ratcheted out for power, that feels very much like Antifa just now. It really feels very much like the way the world is. So it's quite refreshing to watch a film like this, which is so cynical about the world and where it's going. And a lot of the action scenes, even though the budget's been cut to hell, and they haven't been done as well as they probably could have been, are quite inventive. You have Snake at one point riding a tsunami and jumping off the wave and onto a car, which would have been, in the script, sounded cool. And the film doesn't look as cool because it's really bad 90s effects, CGI effects. It's the only way you could do it. But it's now got a charm, a retro charm a lot of old special effects have, and you see them years later, and it's like, they didn't pull it off, but I kind of like how it looks now, because it is a bit daft, but it's still kind of charming in its own way. This film has aged well because there's a charm to it, because they never tried to hide the fact they didn't have much money in the first place. The effects look bad, but they always look bad. But now they look like, because the transfers put some layer to the imagery now, it fits in better with the style of the film. The full film, it feels retro, so now it feels more in keeping with what the film is. So it can be judged on its own merits now more than it could be in the past, where on the big screen you could see every glaring flaw. And it's just a nice, charming, flawed sequel. I mean, it's made by John Carpenter, who is still an interesting guy, and he just throws in weird stuff like the final attack is from people flying in the air in these really old-fashioned like gliders, which only John Carpenter would do. I mean, there's lots of really weird sequences, like he's Peter Fonda as this old surfer. Wouldn't be in a studio film, it'd have to be a John Carpenter film, because he takes it seriously. He doesn't treat him like a joke. And he doesn't treat his villain as a joke, he treats his villain as a psycho who's manipulating everybody. I mean, the villain's not as good as the King of New York, obviously, but he fits into what the world is. It could have had a better actor playing him, but I wish there was more extras to show his command a bit more. But his character still works for what it needs to be. It should have been better, but it still works as a narrative. And this is kind of the end of the movie Brett's era, really, because this was the start. I mean, what you see here would lead into what George Lucas was going to do in Star Wars, which was, he had lots of ideas, but they weren't going to be done quite as well as he's probably had in his head. At this point, Coppola was making Jack, so don't give me any crap about Escape From L.A. really. Spielberg had just won his Oscars and was starting to kind of move into kind of this area of mainstream. He was always mainstream, but now he was going to become this guy who just produced so many films every couple of years. Some would be good, some would be bad, but he seemed less ambitious. You know, yeah, George Lucas was going to come back and then disappear again. There was just a lot of them. John Miller's his career already gone. So a lot of the interesting directors. Brian De Palma was making Mission Impossible, which was released the same year as this one. And that was going to be his last big hit. He's going to do a few more studio films, and then he's going to move to Europe and do his kind of films in Europe. So he not long after this film, he kind of gave up in America and just said, nah, I've had enough. Paul Schrader would continue to struggle on, having good films and bad films, but he'd be still a unique presence in the margins. But this was kind of where the mainstream of the movie brats would fall away, because even after this era, Spielberg was suddenly less of a force. James Cameron took over the idea of the big commercial force, and Spielberg was a lesser force. He wasn't quite as big as he was before, and he never felt as vital to the film world as he was before. So he became diminished as well. So this was really the end of the movie brat era, and it was going to become something else. Something less ambitious in my mind. It was only going to be redeemed by the idea of like newer, weirder directors like Wes Anderson, Paul Thomas Anderson in the margins making their films. But in the mainstream, you're going to have people like Michael Bay and stuff that were making these bland American juggernauts that didn't have any thought put into them. And you see what you want with John Carpenter, he put thought into his films. His films meant something to him. If you look at something like this, or They Live, or In the Mouth of Madness, they're still ambitious films. Sometimes they're not done as well as they could have been, but they're still ambitious, still worth watching just to see what his ideas are and what he's trying to do. Even if, in this case, they get utterly screwed over by the studio and the studio just decimated his budget. I mean, this film really felt decimated. Especially if you know the script, you know what it should have been. It's pretty heartbreaking because there was a good story here, and you can see some of the damage in the film, like the compromises and them struggling to try and do stuff probably on less days than they needed to do certain sequences. So that was a shame. But I hope you enjoyed the video. I have some more coming up next week. This was just a quickie. I thought it'd be fun to do. But see you later.